Hello and howdy, everyone. Today, I'm so excited to welcome a friend and colleague, Kathryn Grayson Nanz, from our very own team, who is joining us for DevReach 2023. Kathryn has a background in not only web dev, but also UI and design. And her talk at DevReach this year, Usability Testing Without a UX Specialist, will focus on usability testing for any team with any range of budget or resources to put towards this task. So I'm so excited to dive into this topic. Kathryn, thank you for taking time out of your schedule. How are you doing?
Of course. Thanks for having me on. I'm doing really well. How about you?
Oh, doing so much better, so much better. We're getting into the school year and we're getting over all those, that means
Mhm.
pre-fall colds. So
Oh, yeah. Are
but
we
I
are we wearing the same sweatshirt?
oh my
I'm
god,
so
are we
curious.
twins?
Yes.
I like it
Amazing.
because the progress, like, peaks. It, like, the
Yeah.
little
Just a
logo, I'm like
little
yeah, it's like, "Oh, hello, so I don't know if I have really dove into your backstory, like, getting to know you. How did you get your start in technology? Where did it all begin for you?
Oh, I meandered into
You did?
technology. Yeah, I went to school for graphic design. I have a fine arts degree. Um, and so I thought I was gonna be a graphic designer, and I started work doing that. I worked in agencies for several years. But at the time, digital design was really taking off. So, not to date myself, but that was becoming, like, a huge thing that more and more clients were expecting
Mm.
of agencies. And I had just a little bit of, like, HTML and CSS from, like a customizing your MySpace, making a GeoCities kind of level. But that was enough to do a lot of, like, small tweaks, and
Mm.
so people would send me tasks that were like, "Hey, can you update the date on this, email?" Or, "Can you add a page to this website?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I could do that." And if someone else had done most of the kind of heavy lifting,
Mm.
but the more I did it, the better I got at it, and the better I got at it, the more of those tasks they gave me, and it kind of became a whole thing.
It snowballed. I love that.
Yeah, I started my dev career in, email design and development,
Mm.
and so I did HTML emails for many years
I feel like I
before
need to have a show where I just talk to you about that because
it's
I have never really done a ton with emails, but I tried my heart out, like, my heart out. I, like, really tried recently. I failed epically, and I'm like, "What
it's
is
a
there's"
whole 'nother world, and there's actually, like, an incredible and, like, really vibrant community of email developers, that I still am, like, on the fringes of just because I have so many friends that are still in that space, and it's like, man, they've got community
Mm,
down, I gotta tell you.
that's
It's
awesome.
fantastic.
One a really good I used to work with Dan Denny at Code School, and he was
Mm.
on the design side, but he also did, like, emails, and so he would actually teach me things, and so I feel like those 2 often go hand in hand where you're like, "Oh, you're good at this thing, can you do this other thing for us?" So
Yes.
well, from the beginning, though, where did your specific passion for, like, the front of the front end come from? Like, with graphic design or with design in general? Where did that start?
Oh, I mean, I loved the front end because the thing that got me excited about development was being able to create the things that I designed, and most of that happens on the front end. That's a CSS kind of zone, and it was very much to me like the back end is what you do to get to the fun part at the front end.
It's like the painful chore that you have to, like, "Okay, I did that now."
I wish I didn't feel that way. I wish I found a little bit more fun in some of that, but it's still to this day, it's like, "Okay, fine. What do we have to do to, like, get the nuts and bolts functionality happening so
Yes.
that I can focus on the fun part, which is, like, making all the buttons look the way that I want them to look." Like
It's so funny though, because I feel the very same way. I identify with you in that, but it's so funny how many people in our world view it the exact opposite.
they have an exact reverse view, and they're like, "I will handle the CSS if I'm absolutely forced to, but otherwise, please let me back to the back end."
I'm always like, "You want the API to do what?"
I mean, I worked for a while, as a senior front end
Mm,
engineer, and so I'm able to do those things,
yeah.
but they don't bring me joy. And in a very Marie Kondo-esque way, when I don't have to do them, I'm happy to hand them to somebody else.
Okay, she's my spirit animal. There's just so many good things coming out of this interview. So, I have had the honor of seeing some of your usability testing talk, and it seems like the advice that you give in that talk often stems from a real world experience that you had. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was working in a company, it was called Threat Connect, and they did, cybersecurity software with the intention of, like, helping, folks catalog threats and, like, make connections between threat agents and, like, more effectively defend,
Mm,
um, their application and their software. So, but it was made for the people that were working in cybersecurity to, like, collect and catalog and make connections between threat actors, which was like a totally new zone for me in that, like, I knew lots of stuff about coding and development and like nothing about this whole other world of cybersecurity. So when we started kind of getting some feedback about the usability of the application and kind of so there was some friction there and things that weren't working super great from like a UI and design standpoint, it was
mm,
like I I don't even know where to start to fix this because I didn't have a really solid understanding of how people were using it and like
mm.
where that disconnect was happening. I didn't have the industry knowledge. So it was like, we've got to talk to some users. There's only one way out of this, and it's to talk to the people who actually know this stuff, who do this every single day.
That's wonderful, but I have seen other people who take another way out of it, and it's called blind guessing.
Yeah. Well, that's what they had been doing. That's what
Okay,
that
okay.
was they were at that stage of startup where they were, like, just on the cusp of, like, not really being a startup anymore. They were a
Okay,
successful startup,
right.
is I guess the way to put it. And so they'd been doing a lot of the blind guessing because they didn't have, like, UX researchers. It was
Mm,
very much like developers building for maybe not other developers, but people that were very technically savvy, you know?
right, yeah,
And so for the most part, they'd kind of been okay in the early stages of their kind of startup growth because the people they were marketing to were very similar user types to themselves. But
yeah.
as they grew and the audience got larger, more and more friction
Mm,
kind of started to happen. So we had to kind of, we were still in that space where we didn't have a lot of designers because we were like growing out of that startup phase. But our audience was no longer exactly the same,
mm,
and not quite as forgiving in the same way. And so if we wanted to keep growing, we had to figure this out. And we didn't have time to, hire someone new and onboard them and teach them everything and
right.
then solve the problem. We just had to start solving the problem.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I wonder, like, looking at usability testing, it can seem daunting, especially for someone who's tasked with it, but they've never before been schooled in it or have any
Yeah.
background in usability testing. So without spoiling too much from your session, could you give some of our tech makers, whether they're in the front end, the back end, maybe like just part of technology in general, can you give them advice for how they would get started with usability testing for their products?
I think in general, the thing that I most recommend is trying to take some of that fear out of it. And
Mm,
especially when you kind of start looking at it, it feels like I have to do this in a specific way and I have to do this in a specific way. And the answer is only like, yes, kind of, right? Like, ideally, yes, that's the end goal that you want to get to. But it's like everything else in development, where sometimes when you're just starting out, it's a little bit of like, duct tape and twine behind the scenes, right? And that's kind of okay to get
mm,
things started. That's a totally valid first step. And I think a lot of people are afraid, and I see this in accessibility too. There's a lot of fear of like, I have to figure it out 100% correct before I start at all. But in the meantime, then you just kind of have this inaccessible product, right? Similarly with user testing, even if you're just having a conversation with a user and you're not doing any of the actual testing stuff,
mm,
you're just talking to someone and hearing about how they use the product, or you're just watching someone do their normal daily tasks, not like testing a specific feature. You're just like shadowing someone through
mm,
their day at work using your product. You're going to learn so much. Like, and ideally, yes, you're able to create something that's, a little bit more organized, that's repeatable, that
mm,
eliminates some variables, that tests with a diverse group. All of those things, fantastic, important steps to work up to.
mm,
But even if all you do is sit in a room with someone using your software,
mm.
it's gonna show you something that you didn't know about it,
Yeah.
guaranteed.
That's such a good answer about like removing the fear and just taking those baby steps towards it because it is a huge daunting goal, but I love that.
That's my rant for the day. Is I feel like developers were really good at taking those swings and misses when
Mm.
it comes to code, right? Like, if someone asked me to code something that I hadn't done before, I'm always like, "Yeah, I don't know how to do that, but I bet I could, like, Google my way through it and figure
Yeah.
it out. I bet I can borrow code from here and a little Stack Overflow there and a little, you know, from the docs here, and I'll patch something together and it'll work, and it might not be perfect, and it might not be the best way to do it, but there's kind of this trust that, like, yeah, I'll show it to someone else, it'll get PR'd, like, we'll work it out,
Yeah.
and for now, I'm just kinda scrapping it together, and that's how you learn,
No,
but
absolutely.
we don't seem to carry those values over, I think, to
Mm.
some of the I hate the term soft skills, but I guess I'm gonna have to use it. We don't seem to carry that over to some of the softer skills of software engineering, and I wish that
Mm.
we did.
I love that. That's beautiful. Well, we are so excited to have you on stage at DevReach. This topic is more and more coming to the forefront of things that I hear mentioned and being brought up as important to designers and developers. So we couldn't be
Yeah,
more excited that you're going to share it to our audience in Bulgaria. Have you ever been
I
to
have not.
Bulgaria? Oh,
I have not, which feels wild at this point. But no, I joined Progress still in the height of the pandemic.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
everyone else has gotten to go to Bulgaria and meet the teammates in person and see the office and get the tour. And I haven't yet. So
Excellent, excellent. I'm
I'm
hoping we can add some new things too, because there's a couple of really cool, Sophia tours that I've never been on, so I wanna branch out with you and see some pieces of the city I've never seen, but do you have anything that you're looking forward to the most for DevReach?
ooh, I think just getting to see everyone, which
Mm.
is like that feels like a little bit of a canned answer. I feel like it's what most people have done when I've been doing this interview. Everyone's like, "I'm so excited to see the other speakers," but like, I'm so excited to see the other speakers, and I'm so excited to meet my Bulgarian teammates that I've never
Mm,
gotten to meet in person before, and
yes.
it's gonna be a blast.
I think it's one of the biggest parts, honestly, about any conference is that person interaction, so it makes sense, it makes sense.
I will throw out there also, the stage looks very cool.
Oh my
You sent
gosh.
me like a video of the
Yeah.
big like surround, like
Yeah. It's,
I
I wanna say a 360 projector, but they don't call it that because of, like, the sound booth. It does
mhm.
isn't part of it, so it's, like, 270 degrees, and I'm like, "Man, can't you just, like, call it
Right.
360 and
A
call
little
it a
marketing
day?"
exaggeration. Yeah, yeah.
Because, like, they're marketing on their websites, 270 degrees surround, like, screen, and I'm like, I feel like you could just fudge that
What does
number.
that
I feel
mean?
like
Yeah. I guess you have to have a door somewhere, right?
I know well, and see, most of the doors are covered up by screen. It's just the
Really?
sound guys, I guess they were like, "Don't
Wow.
put us in the light," I don't
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, I feel like I
uh,
gotta step up my slide game.
oh, it's gonna be epic to see our slides larger than life, or maybe it'll be horrible. I don't know. I've never seen slides that big, so
I know. I have the same feeling. I did, Stir Trek earlier this
Oh,
year, which
yeah,
happens in a
that's
movie
right.
theater, and they put
Mm.
your yeah, they put your screens up on the movie theater screen, and I was like, "My slides are not ready for
I
this."
I think I have a couple complaints about a recent deck that I did where they're like, "The URL, it's too low on the slide. We couldn't see it over the audience." So I feel like for things like that, maybe it would be nice because it's just like
Yeah.
the
It's
font is
everywhere.
as
Can't
big
see it
as
over
your
here, over
right?
there.
Like
Yeah.
oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much again for taking time to do this interview, and I cannot wait to see you on stage for DevReach 2023.
I'm so excited.
Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye.